It represented the very presence of God. That's where God met with his people. And David wanted that presence with him. David wanted that presence at a central location in Jerusalem, where all of Israel would know that God was with them and with Israel. The Ark of the Covenant had disappeared. It's been, not disappeared, but it's been in the house of Abinadab for about 70 years. The last time we even heard about the Ark of the Covenant was back in 1 Samuel chapter 7, where the Philistines had captured it, and they had tried to keep it, and God wreaked havoc among the Philistines for having it. And then the Philistines sent it back to Israel. They send it back because we don't want this. We don't want these plagues and these pestilences and all these things that are happening. They send it back to Israel. And it sat in the house of Abinadab, and this was 70 years ago. Well, David wanted it central. David desired to have the presence and the glory of God represented right there in Jerusalem. David considered it a high priority to bring the ark out of obscurity and back into prominence. He wanted Israel to be alive with the sense of the near presence of the glory of God. Good intention, yeah? A great intention. David is saying to Israel, this is the Lord your God. He is with us here. He has defeated your enemies, the Philistines, and he's here, and he wanted that. Good intentions. He desired to emphasize the presence and the glory of Israel, glory of God in Israel. Well, again, this ark in Numbers 4 verse 15, we're told how the ark is to be carried. Because when the tabernacle didn't stay where it was, as they wandered in the wilderness, they had to pack it all up. And God said, when you pack it up, Moses, this is how I want you to pack it. This way. And for those people who are going to cover the holiest of holy instruments, like the Ark of the Covenant, I don't want anybody to do it. Not just anybody. God instructs them specifically how to do it. In Numbers 4 it says, and when Aaron and his sons have made an end of covering the sanctuary, packing up the sanctuary, and all the vessels of the sanctuary, as the camp is to set forward, after that, the sons of Kohath, and only the sons of Kohath, shall come to bear it. That's the Ark of the Covenant. To carry it on their shoulders. But they shall not touch any holy thing, lest they die. These things are the burden of the sons of Kohath alone in the tabernacle of the congregation. So God had already told them how to carry this ark. What he was supposed to do with the ark in terms of moving it or transporting it from one location to the next location. Well, David has decided to move it. Verse 2, chapter 6 of Samuel. David is going to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the name. The ark is holy. The ark itself is called by the name of God. The very name of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned above the cherubim. God himself has attached his name to this ark, to his presence there with him. We know how holy God takes his name. We are not to take that name in vain. And Leviticus, turn with me to Leviticus 24. In Leviticus 24, there's a story of someone who didn't do that, who didn't reverence the name of the Lord. In Leviticus 24, starting at verse 10. It reads like this. Now the son of an Israelite woman, whose father was an Egyptian, so he's half Egyptian, half Israelite, went out among the sons of Israel. And the Israelite woman's son and a man of Israel struggled with each other in the camp, meaning they fought. They got into it about something. Verse 11. The son of the Israelite woman blasphemed the name and cursed. So they brought him to Moses, not for the fight, not for getting into it with someone else, but they brought him to Moses for blaspheming the name. Now his mother's name was Shelomith, the daughter of Debri, of the tribe of Dan. Verse 12, they put him in custody so that the command of the Lord might be made clear to them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, verse 14, bring the one who has cursed outside the camp, and let all who heard him lay their hands on his head. Then let all the congregation stone him. You shall speak to the sons of Israel, saying this, Moses, if anyone curses his God, then he will bear his sin. Verse 16, moreover, Moses, the one who blasphemes the name of the Lord shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall certainly stone him. The alien as well as the native, when he blasphemes the name, shall be put to death. Does God take his name seriously? His name is meant to be reverenced. His name is meant to be held in the highest esteem. His name is holy, and it is meant for us to treasure it that way. And he gives us this example to let us know just how holy it is. When we hear, as a born-again believer, you hear people who are taking the name of the Lord in vain all the time. It should be like the fingernails on the chalkboard to you. It should just hurt the ears. If you see God and value God's holiness, as he tells us, or tells you too, God is serious when it comes to his name. Well, back in 2 Samuel chapter 6, his name is attached to this ark, to the Ark of the Covenant, that they are going to carry from one location to the other. And God is going to take it seriously. And they placed this ark, notice in verse 3 of 2 Samuel chapter 6. And they placed the ark of God on a new cart. They built a brand new cart for the occasion. I can see it now. They probably lined it with the finest of cloths or finest of skins. They probably made it of the best possible wood. They probably got the best oxen they could find out there, the strongest oxen they could find to carry it. David brought a brand new shiny cart to bring or to bear this ark. Good intention. Good intentions done the wrong way. And David's going to deal with that, suffer with that. We do that, don't we? We do that a lot. Sometimes we say to ourselves, we say to God, you know, Lord, this is what I want to do. And we erect this altar or this fabulous, wonderful, shiny thing to do it, to do something for him with. And we expect him to bless it and bless our efforts. But God doesn't look for us to do things our way. He's not, as we've read and as we will see. Well, it's been in the house of Abinadab, and it was up on the hill. So this oxen and this cart has to make its way down the hill. And so as it's going down the hill, we've got these two Levites, Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab. They were Levites, but they were not from the house of Kohath. And they were, their names, Uzzah means strength, and Ahio means friendly or brotherly. And so their names are representative of their intent, the intent of the heart. The people are out while they're, Uzzah is going before the cart. And imagine this cart coming downhill. Uzzah is before the cart, standing right in front. And thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people are there. And the worship is good. The intent of David's heart is good. The people are celebrating, wanting the presence of God with them. The worship is good. They've got all the instruments. They've got thousands of people worshiping. And the ox and the cart topple. It looks or shake in such a way that it looked like the ark was going to fall off. And Uzzah did what all of us would do. Instinctively, the ark of the covenant is falling down. We would instinctively, without thinking, reach for it, to steady it, to keep it on the cart. And when he did, that mercy seat did him no good whatsoever. God immediately struck him dead when he touched the ark, and he fell. You're talking about a damper on the party and on the celebration. All of Israel was worshiping. The cymbals, the noise must have been loud and great, and all of a sudden, shh, just a hush. Uzzah's dead. Right beside the ark, which did not hit the ground, and now there's a quiet over the crowd, and a panic ensues, and so people start to panic, I'm sure, and then I read something remarkable. Verse 8, and David became angry. Can you imagine that? David became angry. David has decided, with all good intent, to bring this ark and bring the presence of God into into Jerusalem. And he's angry now. But he's angry because he's confused. Lord, you knew I wanted to do a good thing. You knew what I wanted to do was just to worship you and your presence and your glory. You knew. And this happens? It was falling off the cart. The poor guy was just trying to help you out, God. And you killed him. You struck him dead. David is confused. And it leads to anger. David is very angry. Verse 8. David became angry because of God's outburst. And verse 9. David was afraid of the Lord that day. And he said, how can the ark of the Lord come to me? I'm confused. It's been in this obscure location for a long time, for decades, Lord. How do I get it here? If you're not going to let me bring it, how am I going to get it here? He's confused about it. And verse 11 and verse 10, and David was unwilling to move the ark of the Lord into the city of David with him. Stop. Stop right here. We're not moving this anymore. We're not going to take the risk of losing somebody else or doing something. David just stops. It says, verse 10, but David took it aside to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. Can you imagine that? Useless, lay down on the ground, dead. And David says to Obed-Edom, you take it. You take it to your house. You know, and his eyes perk up. Me? But you know, I don't see the argument. I don't see Obed-Edom saying, no, not here. You take it. Play the hot potato game. No, you take it. No, you take it. You take it. No, Obed-Edom impresses me with a humble boldness. It looks to me like he took it into his house without argument, without any debate about it at all. Why? He had to have reverenced it like God intended him to reverence it, and with that, his humbleness could be bold. He could be bold in taking it in, understanding and knowing more than what David knew and understood. So he took it in. Verse 11 tells us the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite for 3 months, and everything around him was blessed. The Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. Verse 12, now it was told to King David, saying, the Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and everything that belongs to him because of the ark, because of the presence of God, because of this representative presence of God. His house and everything around him was blessed. David is confused. He was confused. No, that was my intent, Lord. And this bad thing has happened. But Obed-Edom was blessed. And we're told later in 1 Chronicles that Obed-Edom was a Levite. So it was proper for him to have it there. But you better, I believe that he didn't touch it like Uzzah did. Better believe that it was taken to his house with the utmost reverence. Well, when David heard that he was being blessed, Obed-Edom's house, verse 12 says, David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness. How? How? Verse 13. And so it was that when the bearers of the ark, did you catch that? It's not on the ox cart anymore, is it? It's not sitting there being drawn by some dumb animal or whatever. When the bearers of the ark, David got it right. It took him 3 months to understand what he did and what was going on, but David finally got it right. And not only that, but David was going to do it, he went a little overboard too. Every 6 steps, we're going to stop, Lord. We're buried, we're walking. You know, we're walking, we're carrying it. And he offers a sacrifice. 6 more paces. Lord, we're doing it right? I can see him taking those 6 steps, clearing the path. This thing isn't going to topple this time. Clearing the path and offering the sacrifice, going another 6 steps. David finally gets into the house into the city of David with gladness. David is now has the symbol of God's presence with Israel, and it's a joyous occasion. A joy-filled, glad occasion. Well, having read what we just read about